guys, welcome back for episode number 122 of the weekly playback. Before we begin, I just want to apologize for any background noises that you might hear. Although it is officially autumn, my favorite season, my neighbors are mowing their lawn today, so you might hear that. And it's supposed to be 82 degrees today, but I think this is the last hot day of the year probably, and then it's going to get cooler according to the forecast. But I do have my air conditioner and fan in my bedroom, the fan so that some cool air can blow into this room. I don't have central AC. I do have a window unit in this room too, but it would be super loud if I turned that on as well. So anyway, so those are the background noises that you will hear probably throughout this video, for which I apologize. So anyway, so let's get started. So let's talk about Ultimate Voyage. This is a game that's coming out in 2025. It's hitting Kickstarter in October. It's for 1 to 4 players. It's designed by Leonard Toe. And yeah, so this is a review copy that I received, and I was sponsored to create an overview video of this game. Of course, this segment is not sponsored. So as I mentioned before, I did play this game once, which I did not get to finish, a 3-player game. So then I played it again at a 3-player count. There are different lengths of the game that you can play. There's a short game and a long game. Both times I played a short game, but again, the first time I did not finish. And both times I played a 3-player game of this. So there's a lot going on in this game. There's like point-to-point movement. You're going to be using action cards. You need to like check your action strength. There's going to be like things you're collecting and so on. So it's an exploration game. So let me just show you the board and then we can get into how it plays. So this is the board. So I'll just go over some key features of the board. So at the top you have the prestige track, which is in gold, and the profit track, which is in pink. At the bottom you have like little story areas. You'll be placing cubes here as you acquire story points. In each region you're going to see a big square box. That is where trade goods are going to be placed. The smaller square boxes will have knowledge cubes in them, and then next to that there's like a little track that shows like little circles that is measuring the port's affiliation. The big white lines separate regions, and then you have like various zones within regions. It's harder to travel from one region to another. It's easier to travel within one region from one zone to another. You have the round tracker here, which will determine whether the currents are in your favor or not, and there's going to be other things you're doing. And here is Zheng, so he's an admiral, and you're going to be keeping track of his health, and one of the game end triggers is if he reaches the end of his health track. So you are going to have a player board, and there's different kinds of characters, and they each have like a small kind of power of their own, like an ability of their own. So this is the merchant, the healer, the interpreter, the commander, the navigator, and the diviner. So I played as the diviner, and on each board you're going to see how you're going to set up your action cards to begin the game with. You'll see which resources you start the game with, so porcelain and soldiers, and these are the areas for your deity dials. So there are 3 dials that you're going to be using throughout this game, which will be set according to how these dice are rolled at the beginning of the round by the first player. So here are the dials, and there are negatives and positive sides. So these you will be assigning to the actions that you are taking, so it could increase or decrease your action strength. So let me just go over the various actions, and then we'll get into like kind of like how the game goes. Well, let me go over the flow of the game. So again, the game will be played over a certain number of rounds, and within a round you will get to take on your turn an action, and you'll continue taking actions until you can no longer take actions. So you know, it was a little bit unclear to me in the rule book whether every action had to have a deity dial assigned to it, but that is the way we interpreted it. So basically you will take 3 actions in a round, unless we misread the rule book, but it does not appear that you can take an action without using a deity dial. So yes, we did not see that written anywhere. So basically you're just going to be taking 3 actions on your turn, and there are these auxiliary actions that you can take on your turn as well, which I'll go over. But yeah, I'm pretty sure that you have to use a deity dial in order to take any action. It doesn't explicitly say that, but that's what the example showed, and so we only took 3 actions per round. So the actions you can take. So again, your starting sequence will be determined by your player board. And then after you take actions, when you take an action, you're going to flip the card sideways, and then you're going to take all the cards that you used, rearrange them, and place them to the left side of your action row, because the action strength is determined by the position above your board. So the leftmost card has a starting action strength of 1. The second card has a starting action strength of 2, and so on, going up to 5. And again, those will be altered by the deity dials that you assign to each action, which could increase or decrease it. So one action is sail. So again, this could be determined, the action strength you need is determined by which round you're in and where you are hoping to sail to. So again, it'll show you whether or not you're going in a certain direction, how many action strengths you need, and you're always going to add 1 to that if you're going from one region to another. So this will determine how far you can go. And then when you reach somewhere, you're going to roll a die, which will initially determine that port's affiliation, where it is. So you're going to use neutral colored affiliation cubes to start with when you reach a region. And you will also be getting an exploration card. So there are these cards throughout the game that you will be able to draw, and they'll basically give you a choice of some kind. So for example, here is an exploration card. And on it, it says, ignore, place this card at the bottom of the deck. Or it says, go ahead, discard 1 porcelain and take 2 soldiers from another player with the most soldiers to your player mat now. So these cards will give you an option of some kind. Some of them will have like little objectives that you need to fulfill, so you'll keep them next to your player board and so on. At least that's what it looked like from another player. I didn't actually end up getting one of those cards. So that's what sailing is. Diplomacy is where you're trying to increase the port's affiliation. So when you're somewhere, you want the affiliation to be in your favor, and you want to be able to put down one of your affiliation cubes. So again, you're going to check your strength against the port's strength, and then you're going to take the difference, and that's how many spaces up or down you'll move on the affiliation track, and put your cube there. However, if a port ever becomes -2, it becomes hostile, and then on your next turn you will need to engage in combat. And you'll also get to increase a couple number of spaces depending on how many spaces you moved in the affiliation on the prestige track. So that is one way to go up or down on the prestige track. Another action is combat. So again, if a port ever becomes hostile while you're there, then on your next turn you have to engage in combat. So you're going to roll a die to determine like what the port's strength is and so on, and you're going to check your strength against that. And then you might have to, you know, discard certain resources in order to try to win. So if you lose, let's see what happens. Port will become hostile, and it looks like you will lose a certain amount of resources. If you win, you will get to go up on the prestige and profit tracks. So that's what combat is. Another action that is on the same card is construction. So you can construct buildings. So you can construct a like a pagoda on a port, which will, at the start of when you are leaving from that port to go somewhere else, it'll give you an increased action strength of 2. Or for whatever action you take associated with that port that you're currently at. So that's what placing a building on a port does. However, if you place a depot on your own player board, then from that, you can, oh sorry, that's what it's called when you place it on a port. It's called a depot. When you place a kiln on your own player board or a training camp, then during the administration phase at the start of each round, you'll gain either porcelain or soldiers. So you're going to be building buildings, depots on ports, or kilns or training camps on your own player board. The explore action. So again, all of these actions require certain action strengths. So the explore action, you will be able to take research cubes, knowledge cubes, based on your action strength. And those cubes can then be turned in for a free action, action upgrades, and other things. So that's what knowledge cubes are used for. And then finally, the trade action. So when you're trading, you are going to be acquiring a trade good. So each location is going to have a certain number of trade goods face down. You will, count up what your action strength is. Then you'll get to look at all of the trade trade goods and see if you are able to acquire any of them based on what your action strength is. And these will allow you to go up on either the profit or prestige track, and some of them also give you even something else. Like they'll allow you to, for example, here's one. This one will allow you to get a story point in that region and increase the die that is rolled. You'll get to increase your own deity dial of that color by +1. So different trade goods will give you different things, but mainly allowing you to go up on the prestige and profit tracks. So those are the main actions that you will be taking throughout the game. In addition to that, you have an auxiliary action, which you can take if you have leftover action points, or you just don't maybe want to take spend most of your action points on the main action. So you can scout. So when you scout, this will allow you to basically look at what trade goods are there, and or you can, it looks like, re-roll a die in order to change the port's affiliation, or it looks like you can examine the top card of something and place it on the top or the bottom of the pile. So it looks like you can look at the top exploration card and then decide to place it on top or on the bottom. So yeah, and this card also indicates how you can increase your action strengths by using certain resources like porcelain and soldiers. Here on the back, you see on this player aid, you see all the different types of trade goods that there are. And then on this other player aid card, it will tell you how you can basically get different kinds of points, prestige points and profit points and story points. Because at the end of the game, you are going to, when the game end triggers, so I'll just go over the game end triggers. So the game end triggers are when Zenghi's health tracker reaches the end, and how his health is determined, how his health tracker could reach the end is at the start of each round in the administration phase. Depending on which round you're in, you might have to roll a die and see how many spaces he's going to move up the health track. So it's not, it's not going to be every round where his health tracker moves, but it could move. Another end game trigger is if someone has reached this 15th space in both the prestige and profit tracks, or someone has completed 4 objective cards. So there are objective cards that you can complete throughout this game. There are 3 different types. So if someone has completed 4 of them, then you will reach the end game trigger. And so at the end of the game, you're going to take the lower value of your prestige and profit tracks and get points from that. You're going to get story points that you collected throughout the game, which is supposed to be kind of like chronicling your journey and stuff like that. If you ever return to ship to Nanjing, which in our game no one did, but if you ever did, then you would contribute to building the porcelain tower. So there is this tower, and it has tower pieces that you would add to it in your own player color to cover up these sections. And depending on which sections and how many you covered up, you'll get a certain number of points from that as well. So again, in the game I played, no one contributed to that, because if you ever return to Nanjing, you permanently lose that ship, if I'm correct. So again, in our game, no one returned to Nanjing. But that's another thing that you will get points from. So again, you will take the lower value of your prestige and profit, get points from that. You'll get points from objective cards, you'll get points from story points, and then finally you'll get points if you contributed to the porcelain tower, and then whoever has the most points will win. So essentially you can see that this is an exploration game, and you're going to just be traveling around this map and performing different actions. So yeah, so I guess if that sounds like your kind of game, that you might enjoy it. I personally think that, the rulebook needs a little bit of fixing up. I think, once the rulebook is, maybe the format has changed a little bit, that would make the, learning the game and playing it a little bit easier. One of the criticisms that one of the players that I played with had was that, overall it seems like a simple game, right? But then when it comes to taking actions, it's like you're always referring to the rule book to make sure that you haven't missed anything, because each action has a certain number of things that you want to do or need to do, and in order to make sure that you're doing it correctly. So when you get to the actions part of this game, each action is explained in detail. However, there were questions that came up that were not answered. But again, this is like the prototype version, so hopefully, with more feedback they're getting, they could improve upon the rule book and hopefully answer some of the questions that came up. Oh, sorry, that wasn't even the action section that I showed you. So the way that this rule book is set up, it goes over setting up the game, of course, and then it goes over playing around, and it basically tells you what you do on the administration phase, and then it tells you you're going to do the action phase, and then it tells you winning the game, how you will score points. And then it goes over some key concepts where it talks about the different zones, regions, and seas. And then it goes over what encounter cards are. Oh, sorry, those cards were called encounter cards, not exploration cards. It goes over what objective cards are. It goes over what the deity dice are. And then it talks a bit about affiliation and prestige points, profit points, story points, the porcelain tower, bonus tokens. Bonus tokens is how you will get an extra ship or upgrade your actions. So when you reach a certain space on either the prestige or profit track, depending on which round it is, you're going to check one or the other. So there's always going to be like having to check one or the other depending upon which round you're in, and you might be able to collect a token, and that token might allow you to either upgrade an action or bring out a new ship onto the board. Then you finally get into the actions in the rule book where you go into detail for each action. So as you can see, like for example, this whole page is dedicated to the sail action. Then this whole page is dedicated to combat and construction. Then another section, you have diplomacy, explore, trade, and scout. So it just felt like we were referring to the rule book like a lot, like basically on everyone's turn, it felt like we were referring to the rule book. So I just feel like, you know, maybe for a game that has so many different actions, maybe some of the actions could be simplified a bit somehow, but I don't know if that would actually take away from the game. Like, I'm not a game expert, especially when it comes to exploration games like this. Like, this isn't my forte. This isn't the kind of game that I typically play. So I don't know if that would like take away from the game, but you know, from others who have played this game, they love it a lot. Like, I've seen some of the reviews on BGG, and then I already shot my overview video for this yesterday, and so that's already up on TikTok, and another content creator already said that they enjoyed their play of this game a lot. So I think it really depends on, you know, whether it's your kind of game or not. So if this sounds like the kind of game you like just going to different regions and then deciding which actions you want to perform, and then determining, like, you know, the order of the actions you're going to take, because that will determine, you know, which actions cards you have to then reorganize at the start of your player board. So that could determine what you're going to do in subsequent rounds, you know, so you'll end up getting into, you'll end up strategizing based on that. In terms of player interaction, I don't feel like that there's a lot of player interaction in this game. In fact, when it comes to battling, I feel like we never really battled anyone else. I feel like when we only engaged in combat when a port became hostile. I don't even know if you can even engage in combat against anyone else. Oh, apparently you can do joint combat actions, so that never occurred in our game. But it says if you are in the same region and the same zone and there are ships belonging to other players, then they can choose to participate in combat with you against the hostile port. Oh, and there's like a whole chart here that shows you probability of whether or not you're going to like succeed. I have no idea. Like, I think you have to be like maybe like be really good at math to figure out how that works, like something with rolling dice, I guess. I don't know. So yeah, so you know, I think my only criticism of this game is really that I felt like I had to refer to the rule book way too often. Like, there's games that I've played which are much heavier, but I feel like I did not need to refer to the rule book all that often when I was doing my actions, because it becomes pretty intuitive. But because there are a number of actions and there's a number of steps to follow, I felt like I had to refer to the rule book too often, which took away from my enjoyment. So maybe with more plays that would not be an issue. Maybe things would just, you know, start to become more intuitive. But you know, it's like you're rolling different dice for different things, you're checking different things for different things. So it's a lot to keep track of, I felt. So that's my only criticism. Otherwise, I think the production value is great. I think the artwork, I personally like the board. One of my friends who I play this game with thought the board had too much going on it. So she thought it was a little bit, you know, overwhelming, like the amount of colors and you know, stuff on the board. I personally like the board. I really love the colors and the artwork and everything like that. So I would not change the board. I liked it, but you know, for some people it might be a little bit too much. But yeah, if you enjoy exploration games, you enjoy like sailing and stuff like that, then I think you would enjoy this game. So again, this is hitting Kickstarter in October, so keep your eyes peeled for this game. So yeah, so that was Ultimate Voyage. And again, I was sponsored to do an overview video of this game, but this segment was not sponsored. Okay, so let's move on. Let's talk about River of Gold. This is a 2024 game for 2 to 4 players, designed by Keith Pigot, and the art is done by Francesca Berald, and is published by Office Dog. Now, this is not my copy. I borrowed my friend's copy so that I could talk about this game today. So in this game, you're going to have this really gorgeous board, and you can see that there's foiling on this box cover, and on the board itself, there is some really beautiful foiling. So let me just show you that. I won't open up the entire board, but you can just even see like bits here. And then on the river, and oh, like, look at that. It's just so freaking beautiful. Like, that is just really, really beautiful. So on this board, you're going to see different regions, and I'm going to throw up a picture so that you can see it here. So you're going to see like different regions, like there's like a mountainous region, there's like a forest region, and so on. And there's going to be a river, and you're going to have 2 ships on the river, just regular boats to start with. And you're going to be traveling along the river. So basically at the start of the game, each player has a die, and you're going to roll your die and determine where to move your boat to start the game with. So that's basically part of setup as well. So there's different, first let me just show you some of the resources in this game. So there's money, of course, in this game. So like this is like a 1 and a 5. And I think this is the only game I've played where you don't actually have to punch out the middle square. Like they just made it look like it's empty, but it's actually nothing to punch out there. You're going to have rice, silk, and porcelain. So like here, I believe is the rice, porcelain, and silk. So these are various resources that you'll be spending throughout the game. There's going to be buildings that you're building, and so on. So each player again has a die. So let me just show you the die, and it shows you the different regions on it and a different number value. So for example, here you see the mountain region, and it has a value of 1. So there's 6 different regions, and this die has all 6 different regions, and it's numbered 1 through 6 on it. And on your own player board, let me just show you your player board, you're going to have this tracker here as well, which is basically measuring your, gosh, what was it called? Divine favor. So you're measuring your divine favor, and there's going to be a limit to your divine favor. So you're going to have an upper limit, but you can increase your upper limit by delivering goods to monks, which we'll get into. And then here is the divine favor tracker. So you're going to be using this to measure your divine favor. And then you just have these like little point thingies that you'll be using in order to place throughout the board and on buildings that you're going to be assembling, or building rather. So anyway, so each person is going to have a player board, and you'll be restoring your resources here, and there's a maximum of 6 resources that you can have in each section, and you can only have a maximum of 25 money. So if you ever need to collect more than that, you can either so you can convert 2 of any trade good into 1 of another type at any time, or you can buy favor, so you can spend 5 money for 1 divine favor. So that's something that you can do. So how do you play? So basically, on your turn, the first thing you can do is you can spend divine favor to change your die roll. So 1 divine favor per pip that you want to change it. So what you're going to do on your turn is you're going to look at your die, and based on your die, you're either going to build, sail, or deliver. So if you're building, you're going to take a building tile from what's on offer at the top of the board, or at the bottom of the board rather, and you're going to build that building. So the cost of building the building depends upon where you're placing it onto the river. So for example, here you'll see the different costs of placing the building. So whenever you are placing in this kind of a region that's connected to this line here, those will always cost more than the ones that are in the center. And there's a reason for that, because if your boat stops here, then you will look at this tile as well as the tile underneath. If you stop here, then you will look at this tile as well as this one, and this one. So these ones get used more often in terms of collecting items. So they're generally more expensive to build on. So when you build, you're going to look at the cost of building over here and pay that in coins. Then you'll place your building there, and immediately after placing it, you'll get to do what's in the center over here. So that means you would go up 4 on that specific region's boat area. So for example, I'll just show you this one. So each person is going to have a tracker, a point tracker here, and you're going to be increasing your influence in this area by moving your marker. And when you pass certain things, you'll gain those things. And at the end of the game, depending on who is farthest along, you'll collect a certain number of points. There's going to be a tile here which will indicate who gets how many points based upon how far you are in each region. So when you see this, that indicates you're going to move your influence marker within that associated region where you just built your building. So that's what you get to do. Then you're going to place your building marker on it to indicate that it's your building. Now, again, if someone decides to sail for their turn and they land where there is a building, then they will get to collect things. So they will get to collect what is on the front of the building, the point area, and the owner of the building will get to collect what is on the back of the building. So for example, the owner of this would get to collect 2 coins, while the person who just sailed to that area will get to take a silk. So that is why you want to build buildings, because as you're sailing, that is how you're going to accumulate resources and other things that you really need. If there are no buildings, then you basically get a point for every empty slot that is within that region. So like, let's suppose I landed here and this was over here, I would get to collect a silk and then 1, 2, 3 coins, because these are empty. So again, you know, you're going to look at everything that is in that area that you landed in and collect what you're able to collect, and then the owners will also get something. And then, so that's one of the actions, building. The other action, which we just discussed, is sailing. So you'll move your boat, and it can be either boat. There's 2 boats on the river at all times, the number of spaces, and then you'll collect the things that you're able to collect. If you reach the bottom of the river, you have the option of collecting either money or a good of any type that you want. So let me just show you the bottom of the board. So yeah, you'll get either 3 money, or you'll get to take any one type of good that you want. And there's an ability, like some characters, when you deliver to them, will allow you to put a token here, and I'll get to what that means. But if your boat needs to pass through here and then start again at the top of the river, you will also get to activate that person's ability if you manage to place a token there. And multiple players can place their tokens there. So again, whenever the boat reaches the end of the river, you will either get 3 money or any one type of good that you want. Now, why do you need goods? You need goods because you're delivering them to different types of people. So you're fulfilling various kinds of contracts. So let me just show you some of the types of people that you will be delivering to. So for example, here is a monk. This monk will allow you to increase your divine favor limit. So you would need to deliver 3 silks and 2 rice in order to increase your divine limit by 1 and gain 2 divine inspiration. And then this one also allows you to place a clan marker in any building that you do not own. So basically you can treat someone else's building as your own. So I played the monk twice, which I thought was very helpful, because again, it allowed me to increase my divine inspiration limit, and it allowed me to claim 2 buildings without really having to build them, without having to spend the money to build them. And then I would, you know, be able to collect the benefit of those buildings whenever someone landed their boat over there. A noble will allow you to increase your boat to basically upgrade one of your boats into a noble boat. And when each noble boat has a special ability associated with it. So let's suppose you deliver to multiple nobles, you would get to look at both of those abilities and apply it to your noble boat. So for example, this one says whenever you're, sorry, I don't know if it's called the noble boat. I don't remember, like, you know, the royal boat, whatever. This one says, after your royal boat sails, gain 1 point if you visited at least one building that did not belong to you. So if you did that with your royal boat, you would get to do that. But if you also had delivered to this noble previously, you would also get to activate this. It says, when your royal boat when your royal boat gains a good from visiting a green building, it may be, I actually don't understand what this means. I think maybe you just get to collect that resource. The wording is a little bit weird. So those are what nobles allow you to do. And they also give you end game points. So you can see down here, you'll get some kind of end game points. So this one will give you 1 green point for every green building, it looks like. Artisans. So this one basically, I didn't deliver to any artisans, but this one allows you to gain something, and then it allows you to place a clan marker on a certain location, and then it gives you an ongoing ability. It says pay 2 less coins to build in red. So that's an example of an artisan, and it also seems to give you end game points. A merchant, I did deliver to a merchant. So this one allows you to gain, like, go up 3 influence in a certain region and place a clan marker at the end of the river. So this is the one where I was talking about, where you can activate certain end of river abilities if you have a clan marker there. And this one says, when you complete your journey, gain 1 inspiration. So if you complete your journey with a boat at the end of the river, in addition to either getting the 3 coins or 1 of any resource, because you have a clan marker there, you would get to activate this merchant and also take that, which is really nice. There's an elder, which I did not deliver to. So this one, it looks like you can place a clan marker on a certain icon in a certain region, and it'll give you some kind of end of game points as well. So I believe those are all the different kinds of characters that you can deliver to throughout the game. So again, there's like monks, merchants, artisans, elders, and nobles. Yeah, so it looks like 5 different characters. So that is the 3rd action you can do. So on your turn, but when delivering, the face of the die has to match the person that you are delivering to. So you will see in the corner of each character, there is a certain region displayed. So if you want to deliver, the face of your die must match that person that you're delivering to. And you're always going to roll your die at the end of your turn so that you're prepared to figure out what you can do on your next turn. When you deliver, you will then draw a new card. I believe you draw 2 and you get to decide which one you want to keep. I believe that's what happens whenever you have to draw a new card. So you'll always have 2 cards in hand and that are available to deliver to. So again, you need various resources in order to deliver to these people. So those are the 3 actions you can do on your turn. You can either build a building on the river, you can sail with a boat on the river and then collect things, or you can deliver trade goods to a customer matching your die. And then you can claim masteries. So there are these public objectives where you can claim those. So for example, here is one. It says deliver to 3 different customer types. So in this one, you would want to deliver to 3 different customers, and you would get to place a clan marker if you're the first one to do so on top of the 7-point marker, and immediately gain those points. So I managed to complete, I think, 2 or 3 of the masteries. So for example, I had this one, I claimed this one, I have 1 building of each type. I managed to claim this one, deliver to 2 customers of the same type. So I did that with the monks. I managed to do this one, reach that icon in any region. So I did that one as well. And if I remember correctly, I believe that there's 3 masteries at the top of the board that you can try to complete and gain those points immediately. So those are what masteries are. And then again, at the end of your turn, you're going to roll your die to complete your turn. The game end will be triggered once the buildings run out. So there's a stack of buildings, and if you are the person who causes the last building to come out into the market for people to pick up if they want to build, then you will gain the points from being the last person to have done that, the first person to have done that. So you'll gain 5 points. So this is where the buildings are stored. So if you are the person who causes the last building to come out, you'll immediately gain 5 points. And then everyone else but you will get 1 more turn. And again, as I mentioned before, at any point you can convert 2 of one type of good into 1 of another type, or you can buy divine favor, because again, you need that favor or inspiration, as I've been calling it in this video, in order to change the face of a die if you really need to do that. So that's what that is useful for. So let's just talk about final scoring. So at the end of the game, you will now score for regional influence. So as I mentioned, the various regions of the board, you'll have been moving your clan marker, your influence marker in those regions. And on top of those, there's going to be certain point indicators for the person who is farthest along to collect some points, and maybe the second person. And you know, in a 4-player game, you might have some regions where even the third person can get something. So you're going to add up all your points for that, depending upon who has the most influence in that region. In addition to that, if you manage to place a clan marker on the side of a region, you can double your points there. So I'm assuming that there were certain like cards, like customers, that would have allowed you to do that. I actually don't know how you would get your marker onto the side of a region that would allow you to double your points in that region. I'm assuming that was done through customers, but I actually never did that, so I'm not 100% sure how that's done. Then you're going to look at how many customers you delivered to, and then you'll score a certain number of points based on that. So I had delivered to 5 customers in the game, so I scored 20 points. If you delivered to 4, you would have scored 14. 3 customers, 9 points, 2 customers, 5 points, 1 customer, 2 points, and 6+ customers, 27 points. Then you get customer bonuses. So again, some of those customers had points on them. So for example, I had 2 customers for every 5 money I had, I would score a certain number of points. So I ended up scoring 6 points from those customers. And then whoever has the most points will win. So I actually won my game that I played of this, which was really awesome. So it was a pretty close game though. So let me just read the scores to you. So I scored 77, then 2 people scored 74, and then the next player had 70 points. So yeah, so it was a very close game. I really enjoyed this game. Like, I think I was the only one at the table who had not previously played it before, if I am remembering correctly. So I was a bit worried that I might not perform as well and I might have trouble like catching on, but it's a really easy game, like super, super easy. Like, you only have 3 actions to choose from. And as long as you remember what you're doing on a certain action and how the die has to match to the region like that you're building in, or you know, that you're going to deliver to a customer that matches that region, and so on. Pretty simple. And it's basically about managing your resources to use your resources efficiently so that you can hopefully deliver to customers and so on. Like, really fun game. And it's also fun because you have 2 boats, so you're always, you know, able to choose from one or the other boat if you're sailing and trying to, you know, land in areas that will be lucrative. Like, I really, really enjoyed this game a lot. I thought it was super fun. It's not complex, just a really enjoyable strategic game though that involves dice rolling, which is, you know, fun. Like, usually I feel like people, you know, tend to think that dice rolling games have too much luck that you can't mitigate, but in this game you do have, like, you know, that divine favor that you can use to mitigate dice rolls, which is nice. And apparently there are cards that have special abilities so that you can make it a little bit more interesting. So if we do play this game again, which I hope we will because I really enjoyed it, then I hope we can play with these special characters to make the game a little bit more different. So yeah, so again, this was not my copy. This is a friend's copy that I borrowed to talk about this game, but I really enjoyed it. So if that sounds like something you're interested in, then you should definitely check it out. So yeah, so that was River of Gold. So let's move on. Another game I played recently is Kavango. So this is a 2024 game for 1 to 5 players, designed by Matt Brown and Zara Reed, and the art is done by Matt Brown, and it's published by Mazaza Games. So this is a game that I covered for its Kickstarter, and I was sponsored to do an overview video of this game, and as a part of my compensation, I always include in my contract to get a deluxe copy of the game, and so this is the copy I received as a part of my contract for finishing the game, for covering the game rather. So yeah, so this is my copy, but we played with a friend's copy, so everything everything is still in its original packaging. I haven't taken things out of the bags yet. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about this game. I'm just going to use pictures right now. But basically in this game, you are going to have a big reserve board and you are trying to get animals to populate your reserve. This is a conservation game. So you're going to have like different cards that have different requirements that you need to meet. So for example, each player's player board is going to start out with some animal tags at the top of the board. So for example, this card, maybe this isn't such a good example, let's use this card. So for example, this card, this needs 2 grasslands and it needs these levels of protection in order for you to place this card into your reserve, which would be worth 5 points at the end of the game, and then it would give you one of these medium mammal tags. Because there's going to be predators that need medium mammals in order to eat them. So you are basically, this is a pick and pass game. So there's going to be several hands of cards, and you're always going to, at the start of the game, you're going to do a pick and pass and a snake turn order in order to pick your starting cards, which you will then place into your sanctuary, which you can't place out yet, probably because if you don't have the requirements to meet them. So each person's board has a certain number of sanctuary spaces on the side. So on your turn, basically, you're going to have been handed a hand of cards. You're going to select a card, place it face down, and then simultaneously everyone's going to reveal that card. And if you've met the requirements for that card by having the necessary tags and protection levels, you can place that card into your reserve. Otherwise, you need to place it into your sanctuary if you have room in your sanctuary to place that card. In addition to animal cards, there are action cards as well. So let me see if I can find an action card to show you as an example. I know those are character cards. Are there any action cards I can show you right now? So there's action cards that might let you, for example, take a coin immediately and to contribute to the climate fund. There's action cards that might let you take a rewilding card, and rewilding cards just basically have those tags that you can tuck under your board. So yeah, I don't even know where the action cards are right now. They must be in one of these decks and I'm just not seeing them. But I think I checked this one. Let's see, is it in here? Huh. Nope, not in there. So there's different kinds of action cards. So there's going to be action cards that are mixed in with all the animal cards in each deck. So you could also select an action card instead of an animal card if you wanted to. I really have no clue where they are. That's weird. Oh. I guess this deluxe version comes with a special holographic card. So this is the painted dog. That's pretty cool. Not that I'm a huge fan of painted dogs. It would have been cool if it was some animal that I actually like. Okay, oh wait, here are some action cards. Found one. Climate fund. So here's one I was talking about. So if you selected this, you would get to do this while everyone else is deciding whether to put their card into their reserve or their sanctuary. So this one allows you to gain 2 million from the bank and spend it on climate protection, and then you gain 1 point. So there is a board where you're keeping track of the points. So here is the point tracker. And there's also going to be, so here is the climate fund. So you, when you contribute to the climate fund, if you contributed $8 or more million to the entire climate fund at the end of the game, you would gain 10 points. But until a whole section is filled up, depending on the player count, you cannot say you have that level of climate protection. So for example, in a 4-player game, there needs to be all of these cubes here in order to say you have this level of climate protection. And here there's going to be public objectives in each round that you can try to meet, which will give you a certain number of points and money. So points and money, so points you'll just be going around the point track, but your money you'll be using again to spend on climate protection or these kinds of protection on your own little player board. So each person has one of these, and you can allocate money during the conservation phase of the game. So the way the game is played, first you have the choose a card, then play a card, which we just discussed. Sorry, then you can, it's the research phase. So then you can do research and invest money. That's when you would decide to place a cube onto a public objective that you've met. You can place cubes over here in order to get various types of protection. So for example, poaching protection, and I don't recall what this one is, but various levels of protection. And again, you can only place cubes if you can fill the whole section, and you are not, you cannot say you have that level of protection until all the cubes are in that section. And certain animals require different levels of protection. So that's what you can do during the complete research and invest money phase. Then you pass your hand of cards and then you start again until the round is over. So this game is played over, I believe, 3 rounds. And so each person's going to get 10 turns in each round. So I remember the first time I played this game when I was covering it for its Kickstarter, I performed so badly. But last night, no, 2 nights ago actually, my friend, he read the rule book, which gives you some strategy tips. So one of the strategy tips is, is to, in the beginning of the game, pick animal cards that have like basic tags that will be easier to fulfill. Like, don't collect big animals hoping to get all these tags that you can then later add that animal to your board, because you might never get around to adding that animal to your board. And that's correct. Like, I remember the first time I ever played when I was covering this game for the Kickstarter, that's what I did. I was, getting these big animals that I couldn't place into my reserve then. And so by, there's going to be different animals that you're collecting that require different tags. And as you start building, adding smaller animals to your reserve, then you'll be able to add larger animals to your reserve. Like, so for example, this owl requires 3 rodents and this level of protection to add to your reserve. And then this shows you that it's like a predatory bird. And then there might be another animal that needs a predatory bird. So again, all different kinds of animals with different levels of protection needed. So here, for example, is one of my favorite animals, which is an elephant. So this shows you it requires 3 trees, a grass, and these levels of protection, and it'll be worth 11 points at the end of the game. So basically, it's like a hand management game, and in which you're trying to, get the tags you need and play your cards well, and choose the correct cards in order to hopefully, score the most points, like you want to do in any game. But let me just show you the main board. So here is what someone's reserve board looks like. So as you can see, there are all these spaces for animals. And then here's the sanctuary on the side of the board where you can store cards that you are not able to play yet. And everyone starts the game with 2 tags, which are the ones that are in color. So the muted out ones, you don't start the game with those tags. So that is what a player board looks like. Yeah, and really nice components, and for each player color, there's different animals you can choose from to play as. They're just basically your score tracker, so it's not really a huge deal. But for example, for purple, you can play as either the hippo or a flamingo. So yeah, so I played as purple, and then green is like the elephant or a pangolin or a turtle. Orange is the pangolin or a wildcat of some kind. And then blue is like a rhinoceros or like a wildebeest, I think that is. And yellow is a lion or a giraffe. So yeah, so those are the different kinds of animals you can play as, which is really cool. There is a die, which I believe is used for solo mode. And then, oh yeah, and there's like a bunch of different like smaller objective cards that you, I think I mentioned that you'll be trying to meet throughout the game. So let me just show you an example. So if you completed those during the research phase, you would place one of your markers on it and then collect the corresponding number of points and money. So for example, this one says number of animals of the same type, can be any type. So if you had, like, for example, 4 animals of the same type, you would get to collect 1 money and 1 point. And everyone's money everyone's money is in cubes of their own color, because that will help you determine how much money you contributed to the climate fund. So everyone has cubes in their own color, and this is the deluxe version. So this comes with wooden tokens to use for the objectives that you complete. Yeah, and then it also comes with these because your points can go into the higher numbers. So end of game scoring. So let's just go to end of game scoring. So at the end of the game, let's see. Oh, it looks like there's a mini expansion as well. Cool. Where is end of game scoring? I honestly cannot find it. I don't even know. It's like gameplay details, gameplay variants, blah, blah, blah. I don't know. End of each round. Okay, here we go. Here's end of game scoring. It was before all the details. Scoring. So at the end of the third round, the game is complete. So first, research. So each time you completed research, you will move your animal along the score track. So you're going to do that for round 3 as well. So see how many of those research objectives you completed. Conservation awards. So you will get 10 points for each conservation award you've completed. So you can win all 3 as long as you fulfill the objectives. So on your player aid, it shows you the different kinds of conservation awards you can get. So biodiversity. So you'll get 10 points if you have each of the 11 species types in your reserves. So those tags show you all of the different kinds of species that you could possibly have. I feel like that's a tough one to get. Did I have that one? Oh, actually, I think I did have that one. If I remember correctly, I had that one. Yes. Climate award. If you contributed 8 million to climate protection, you can get 10 points. Protection award. Achieve level 4 habitat and poaching protection on your own board. So again, each player has their own board, and if you filled in the habitat and poaching protections up to level 4, you would get 10 points from that. Then goal cards. So if you had goal cards, you would get, which are like your own private objectives, you would score points from that. And then you add up all the points from your animal cards, which you added to your reserve, and then whoever has the most points will win. So yeah, so that is Kavango. It's a really good game. So I actually really, really like it, and I really enjoyed my play of it more recently as opposed to my first play of it, where I performed very badly because I was overly ambitious and taking cards that I just didn't have the tags for and so on. So this time I tried to play a little bit more strategically and took some cards which I knew that I might be able to fulfill by fulfilling first lower level cards, which is obviously the way to do it. But yeah, I performed much better this time. And there's like a nice little reference guide that each player will get, and it also tells you which cards you're going to have in each hand, so different level animal cards and so on. So yeah, it's a really nice reference guide. But yeah, really great production value in this game, and the game itself is really good. Like if you love animal themed games and conservation themed games, highly recommend this one. Like I like that, you know, you're required, well not required, but like it pays to you know, contribute to the climate fund. One player in our game just did not do that, and she performed the worst. Like she did not contribute any money to the climate fund. But you're going to want to contribute money to the climate fund because there are going to be some animals that need a certain level of climate protection. And if no one's contributing to the climate fund, you're not going to be able to play those animals at all. So yeah, it's a group effort contributing to the climate fund, which I really like about this game. Like I feel like it really you know, shows like mimics reality. Like in reality, like everyone should be contributing to protecting the climate, right? So in this game, you're doing the same. So I really, really enjoy that. And the artwork is just really nice. It's like just, you know, very natural looking, pretty artwork, which shows the animals that, you know, like how they would look in nature. So I really like that. And it comes with a nice little map that shows you which area this game was based on. So yeah, so I really like this game. And as someone who was fortunate enough to go on a safari in Kenya and South Africa, of course I went on ethical safaris. I have to mention that as an animal lover. Yeah, really, really love this game. So I do foresee this game staying in my collection because in terms of games having to do with the African wildlife, like this is one of the better ones, I feel like, you know, that really is enjoyable for, I think, everyone to play. So yeah, so that is Kavango. So, you know, if that sounds like something you're interested in, like this nice tableau building game, then yeah, you should check it out. So yeah, so that was Kavango, and let's move on. So the next section, games that I am backing. So last time I mentioned March of the Ants, so I'm still backing that. So that has, let's see, it has 18 days to go, and it has raised, well, my internet's a bit slow. It's raised over $206,000. Wow, it's got over 3,000 backers right now. So yeah, so I'm still keeping my pledge for that. And then I added on something else. So I added on railroad tiles. So I'm backing railroad tiles now. So this is a game, if you've ever played the roll and write game Railroad Inc., it's like the tile placement game version of that. So I actually own a couple of the Railroad Incs. I believe I own the Forest Edition and the Desert Edition, I think. I think those are the only two I own, but quite honestly, I play this game on my iPad, and I don't think I've ever played with my physical editions of the game, which is really, really sad. So yeah, so I actually play this on the iPad quite a bit, and I really, really enjoy it on the iPad because it animates the train and things like that, and it's got some fun little train noises and stuff like that. But this tile game looks really good. So I was like, okay, I'm going to back the tile version, the tile placement version. Like I just watched, like, you know, the preview video, and I read some of the reviews for it, and it just looks really, really cool. So I am backing it at the all-in edition, which is quite expensive to get all of the expansions. I did leave a comment complaining about something, and some other people agreed with me. So I don't know if Horrible Guild is going to take my comment into suggestion. I really hope they do, because I don't think it's going to be a huge deal for them to fix it. But one of the little mini expansions that this game comes with is a circus thing. So where did it go? I can't find it now, but it comes with a circus little mini kind of expansion, and it shows little, it shows train cars with elephants inside. So I left a comment in the comment section asking them to remove the elephants from the game, and I just basically told them how Devere took, you know, people's feedback into consideration, my feedback into consideration, and created a solidarity deck so that people could remove the animals from the games and instead put inside robots and like puppets and stuff like that, which is, you know, perfectly fine. So I'm like, you don't need to put an elephant in a circus in the game. Like there's just no need for that anymore. Like that can be easily fixed by just showing a clown or something else. So I left a comment about that. They said that they would take it into consideration. I'm guessing that they're actually not going to do anything about it. Oh yeah, circus wagon pawns. So included for free with each pledge is the world expansion, which includes circus wagon pawns. And I just really don't want to play with pawns that are showing elephants inside of a circus car. Like these elephants are so badly abused, circus elephants and trekking elephants. Like I just don't think there's any reason in this day and age when everyone's educated about the horrors that circus animals go through to include animals in a circus train. Like just not necessary. Like if Devere could come out with a solidarity deck, I feel like, you know, they haven't even gone to print yet. Like they can come up with some other meeple instead and show a clown in the circus train instead. So I, you know, hope I might leave another comment. I just might be a pain in their ass and leave another comment. So there's 18 days left to go on this campaign, and it's raised $269,000. So if you are backing this, I encourage you to also leave a comment in their comment section so that they can see that yes, people do not condone animal abuse and do not condone wild animals being used in circuses, so that hopefully they will change it. So those are the games that I am backing right now. Now I have a lot of new arrivals to show you, like a whole crap ton. So what to start with? So I think I'll start with a game that I'm going to be covering for its Kickstarter, and I am so super duper excited for this. Like, oh my god, I cannot explain how excited I am to play this game. This is Tend from Ivy Games. This looks like an amazing roll and write game. Like it just looks absolutely incredible. It is for 1 to 5 players and plays in 90 minutes. Unfortunately, I still don't have a rule book for it, so I could not play it, but I'm dying to play this game. So it comes with 2 different sheets. There's a huge stack of sheets here, like gigantic. So amazing. Just look at how colorful it is. It just looks so beautiful. Here's another sheet. It comes with various boards. So here is a player board. And it looks like all player boards look the same. And they all say Zenith Corporation on the back of them. So, and then there's a whole bunch of different cards and stuff, but before I get to the cards, let me pull these out. So again, I don't have a rule book yet, so I don't know how it plays. But there's a whole stack of these like giant cards, and they look the same to me. Like I've been looking at them trying to figure out how they're different, if they're different at all, but like I cannot make sense of how they're different. Like they all look the same to me. So I'm like, why are there like a billion of them? I do not understand. There's a whole stack of these cards. So once I get the rule book, hopefully it'll be clearer to me, but like a whole stack of them. And I've like looked at multiples of them and they look like they're all the same. So I really do not understand. Like they all say the woods at the top and the mines at the bottom. And they all look like they have the same like things drawn on them, the same resources. So I don't understand what this is yet, but I'm sure I will once I get the rule book. So yeah, so that's that. A bunch of different kinds of action cards. So I guess I'll just pull out a couple and show you. Oh, those are the backs of the cards, my bad. Here are the fronts. So there's like season cards, and then there's like various like action cards. So yeah, some of what I showed you was actually season cards. So those are some cards, and there's more of those. There's more of these bigger sized cards, and then there's regular size rather, and then there are some smaller cards as well. So yeah. So there's a whole stack of smaller cards, and then there are a crap load of dice in this game. So we've got these really cool looking dice. Oh my god, they look so cool. We've got just these like regular looking ones, pardon the fur, and then these tiny little dice. And then, oh, more dice, more dice. Oh my god, these are huge. Wow, let me just pull out one of these. Ooh, that looks like a pumpkin or something. Or like maybe an apple, but that is so cool. Look at how big that is. Wow. This is so freaking cool. This die is really, really nice. So yeah, a bunch of these really big dice. Like, oh my god, those are so freaking cool. So yeah, I just noticed those. I didn't notice those before. I don't remember where they were actually and how to get them back in. Okay, I'll figure that out later. And then there's like a whole bunch of different markers. Like, oh my god, there are so many. I cannot tell you how many there are of these. So I think they have enough for each player to get one in each color. So it looks like there's going to be 5 of each color of these, and there are just so many. So yeah, let me just put their big dice back down. And then maybe I'll stick other stuff on top of it. So yeah, so a bunch of these, and then let me just put some of these. I haven't actually opened up one of these markers. I'm curious. So it looks like they're double-ended. Oh wow! Oh, there's stamps on one end. Oh my god, that is so freaking cool. Okay, I'm just gonna stamp something just so I can see what it looks like. Here, I'll just stamp my hand. Okay, can you see that? I don't know if you can see that. Don't mind my cat scratch scars. Okay, so there's stamps on one end of these. Oh my god, that is so freaking cool. Okay, and then finally, let me just show you. There are these cool looking coins. I gotta take them out because I have a crap ton of stuff to go through. And then this like other one cool looking coin, which is a bit thicker and it's in color. Oh my god. Okay, I'll take this one out because this one looks cool. So, oh, that looks really cool. I wonder if this is like a first player marker. Like that is so freaking cool. Oh, love it. Okay, so yeah, so I don't know. I mean, I haven't played this yet. I don't know what the rules are. I know that it's a roll and write. I know that there's stamps involved, and yeah, I'm just super duper excited to play this. Like, you know, I've talked about Ivy games before. So I would say that Mythic Mischief is my favorite, then Moonrakers probably, then maybe Veiled Fate, and then maybe Fractured Sky. But like, I can totally see this like going up in the ranks. Like, I love roll and writes, and I'm just dying to play this. Like, I just want them to send me the rulebook already so I can play this. So like, as I mentioned, I will be doing a sponsored overview video of this. So this is the preview copy that I received. And as always, like the preview copy, the production value is like through the roof, like just incredible. So yeah, so that arrived. I already showed you my copy of Kavango. So in terms of review copies, I have a couple, actually just a couple more review copies, and then I'll get into stuff that I backed. So as you know, I'm a huge fan of Devere games. So I received a review copy of one of their newer games, which I'm super duper excited about. And I believe this is going to be an Essen release of theirs. And that is Daitoshi. And this is part of their one series of games. I can't remember what they're calling it. But yeah, like they have this like whole series that they're doing, and I believe that sand game I played one time that I talked about, which I can't remember the name of now. Maybe I can just look this up and that might help. Sorry, I think I have a hair in my eye, which is really annoying. Okay, Daitoshi. So Daitoshi is a 2024 game. Come on, internet. My internet is a bit slow up here. Okay, so I wonder if it says which series it's a part of, because I know that it's a part of some series. Okay, it doesn't say it, but yeah, it's like part of like their like Japanese like yokai series, I think it was called, or something like that. But this is designed by Danny Garcia, and I think he's a great designer, and this has a steampunk vibe to it, so I'm super duper excited about it. It took me forever to unbox this last night, so I'm glad I did that because there was a crap ton of stuff, and the box is filled to the brim, like all of their boxes always are. So yeah, some of the pieces unfortunately were damaged, but it's not a huge deal. So I'll just show you some of the components. So it comes with these like acrylic tokens. So I'll show you all the acrylic pieces first. Like there's like these clouds. So I'm assuming these are like value 1 clouds, and all the acrylic pieces had those like plastic film on them that I had to remove, and there were a crap ton of those that I had to do on both sides. So that took a long time. There's still more acrylic pieces. Let me just find them. Where did the rest go? Oh, here. So there are some like level 3 clouds. I think they're clouds. And then there were some other pieces that were placed into the individual player bags. So for example, here are some individual player pieces, and you can see some of the acrylic pieces in there. Those are used as resource trackers on your own player board. And then here is like a person for the purple. And then the purple, the other pawn, a part of him was broken. So that I can see if I can find. Well, anyway, I'll just show you this car looking thing. Maybe it's a train. I'm not really sure. Is it upside down? No. I think that's the way it goes. So there's that. There's like some kind of a cool like chimney looking thing. This is the part that's broken, so it looks like it's missing his head or something. There was like a piece on top that was broken, and several of them are broken for different colors. And then there are some of these little things. So yeah, there's a whole bunch of different kinds of tokens for each player. I'm not going to show you all of them because there's just so many. There's a bunch of different tiles in different colors. So here are like some kind of like red pinkish looking tiles. Like for example, here are some yellow looking ones. There's a whole bunch of these different kinds of things. I'm not even sure what they are, but there's a whole bunch of different ones and different colors of those. There's different meeples in different colors. So green, not associated with players, so these do not match with the player colors, so those just stayed in their own bag. There is this really cool looking pawn. I'm assuming this is like the first player marker. Again, more of those that I just mentioned. There are these. And now this game came with a promo, so I think this one was the promo one, and these are the two that came with the actual game. But yeah, absolutely loving the colors. Like, oh my God, I absolutely love the colors on this. There are some cards. I'm not gonna go into too much detail. There are these. Oh my God, there's so much. There is just so much in this game. But you know, it's a Danny Garcia game, so I suppose that's to be expected. There's a bunch of these. Okay, and here, let me show you a player board. Now these are dual layered, which is really nice. So as you can see, there's different resource trackers, which I was telling you about, the acrylic pieces. So those will go there for each player. So each player has their own player board. Then we have this like gigantic board, which I'll see how much of it I can show to you because it is really big. So let's see. Okay, here we go. Ta-da. Hopefully that gave you a good view because I couldn't see when I was showing it to you. So yeah, so that is the player board. And with like most of their games, it comes with several different rule books in different languages. And it comes with these really cool player guides. So you can tell it's going to be a heavy game because like look at each player's guide, like pretty hefty. So you can tell it's going to be like a heavier game. So that's that. And again, those also come in all the different languages. So yeah, so this looks like it's going to be intense, but I'm really looking forward to playing it. I think it'll be enjoyable. So the other Danny Garcia games I've played, I have enjoyed. I don't know how many I've played now. Oh, I think I'm packing everything up wrong. But yeah, getting everything to fit into this box is a bit of a struggle, I will say. So I might just have to remove the rule books and stuff that I'm not using in the other languages and maybe just store them somewhere else, because making everything fit into a DeVere Games box is always a struggle. I feel like it's like one of my biggest complaints with boxes is like I wish that they would somehow know how much space something is going to take up once it's actually all punched out. Like it's all fine and dandy when it's all on the punch boards, then of course it all fits. But once it all gets taken out, and then you have to like put it in, you know, it can just be harder to fit everything in. But yeah, I'm not sure if I showed you all the player colors. So there's like a yellow, I think I showed you the purple, there's like a pretty green color, and then there's a brown color. And if you've played the other games in this series, it's the same player colors. So I believe that the series started with that one early on game that they had, which had like little worms in it, the name of which I cannot remember now. But yeah, so that was Daitoshi. So let me show you what else I got from DeVere. So I also got from them a review copy of the White Castle Matcha. So this is an expansion to White Castle, which I really enjoyed. So I hope I will get to play with the Matcha expansion. So I believe that this is also maybe another Essen release. So there are a bunch of cards which fell out of their little holder. So yeah. Bunch of different cards with different colors on the back. Some meeples and stuff. Some dice. It looks like it comes with a promo of some kind. Some extra promo cards, I think. And then it looks like there's an additional board you'll be using with the main board. Ooh, I wonder if it's like a tea house or something. That is so cool. Very, very nice. I really do love Japanese themed games. And then there's just a bunch of stuff to punch out. So that is the expansion for the White Castle. And then finally, and of course, rule books in multiple languages. And then finally, they sent me another review copy of this one smaller game called Tinko. So let me just find the cover for this. Oh, oops. Got to put those back in Daitoshi. We'll have to do that later. So Tinko is like a smaller box game. It is for 3 to 6 players. So let's just see. The artwork intrigued me. So I actually haven't opened it up yet. Looks like there's some stuff to punch out. And then there are some cards here. So let's just open these cards and see what they look like. Okie dokie. Really cool artwork. Yeah, so I will give this a go. It looks like it's a quick playing game of some kind. I don't know much about it right now, but this intrigued me a bit, so I got a review copy of this and all the different rule books. Okay, so that is Tinko. Okay, so I think those are all the review copies. Now I can go into games that I actually purchased. So I already showed you Kavango. Okay, so I got one of the games which I had backed on Kickstarter, and that is River Valley Glassworks from All Play Game. And I backed the All-In Deluxe Edition. So it comes with this slipcase. And it took time last night to organize this as well. And miraculously, everything does fit into the box, which is nice. So it's got these. It's got some player markers, which I put in my own plastic bag. It looks like there's some cards that you can play with. So this looks like an expansion of some kind, which, here we go. Oh, I actually didn't open these cards yet. But yeah, I don't, oh, actually, maybe it might be easier to open with this thing. Let me see if I can get this open. Oh wait, here we go. Let's see. But yeah, it looks like it's called River, Glass, and Other Sundries. So I think it's like some kind of expansion cards that you can play with. Looks like a very cozy game. And I think some people, like reviewers, when they were covering it, compared it to like Azul or something, right? I can't remember now. Oh yeah, the deluxe edition came with this dude, which is really cool. I really, really love him. Like, he is really awesome. Like, that is very, very cool. And then some of these like player board things. Oh yeah, and then there are a bunch of different color stones in this. So this is an add-on that I added on because the original bag was this one. So I'll just use this for something else, like for personal use or something. But I added on this bag, so this is the one I'm going to be using for the game because I think I just like the mosaic look to it. But yeah, and there's a whole bunch of different like colored like glass like stones in here. Let me see if I can take some out. Yeah. So that's what you have in the bag here. And then there are these like things, like I think that this is like a river where you'll be collecting glass from, and this had like plastic foam on it that needed to be removed. There are these things, I don't know what those are. Then there's a play mat. This play mat looks really cool. And then individual player boards. And if you've read the comments on the Kickstarter, people are really upset about the typo in each player board. So every player board says Glassworks instead of Glassworks, which is really annoying. So yeah, I can't find it now, but last night I saw it. So I thought it was every single one, but maybe it's not every Glassworks. That one's correct. Glassworks. Maybe it was just one of them then. Oh yeah, here's one that says Glassworks on it. Oh yeah, two of them say Glassworks on it. So two of them have typos on them. These two have typos on them. But yeah, so those are the player boards, and I think that that's it. So yeah, so that arrived. So I had backed this on Kickstarter. So I wanted to show that to you guys. Now I will show you. Let me just put this back in. Sorry, one second. Okay, another thing I backed on Kickstarter recently, I actually don't know where I put the, I should have grabbed it, but oh well. So I have this like new player mat, which I backed for one of my favorite games ever, which is Moon from Sinister Fish Games. And in addition to the player mat, I backed their coin chest, which you can use with any game. So I backed this coin chest series number 3, which really looks like you can play it with any game. Oh, I left this out. There's all these things I'm leaving out, which I'm gonna have to open up all these boxes to put back in a bit. Okay, so so here is coin chest 3. Oh my God, if I can just get it open. Okay, so really cool. So I feel like you can use this with any game because, like, you know, the style, I feel like, you know, candles you can probably use with almost anything. There's like a trophy for the 5 coin. The ones have like nothing on them. And then the, what else is there? There's the 100 coin. So yeah, and there's one, I think, did I show you the deer? Oh no, I don't think I showed you the deer. And I feel like deer-like animals exist in all parts of the world. So I feel like you could probably use this with any game, which is so cool. So yeah, they're not metal, but they're really nice wooden coins, which would be nice, a nice alternative to using cardboard. So I had backed that on Kickstarter in addition to the Moon playmat, which I don't have with me right now, so I can't show it to you. But the Moon playmat is huge. So yeah, so that arrived. And then I had backed this one game called Phoenix Farm, which arrived. So I feel like that was a pretty quick delivery. I feel like it wasn't that long ago that I think I was talking about backing this game. So these are my own bags that I used, but some nice metal gold coins, some Dyson cubes, some heavier metal cubes, and then some pretty looking cards. Look at these. Firefly cards are like my favorite. I really like those. So those are some of the cards, and then there's more cards here. So all of these cards are double-sided, so it looks like it's going to be like multi-use cards. And it looks like you're you know, it's a phoenix farm, so you're like you're going to have like phoenix eggs or maybe even ash. So I don't know if ash comes after or before elders, but you're basically going to be raising phoenixes, I think. And this edition came with like the special eclipse card, which mentions the date of the solar eclipse that happened in April, which is so cool. Like this card is just so beautiful. Just really, really love it. Like let me take it out of the sleeve so you can see it. I really love the artwork on this card. Like that is just really, really beautiful. So that actually came in a sleeve like this, which is really nice. And then I'll just show you. So I had, so here are the player boards, and it looks like they're double-sided. So this game plays up to 6. You know, it's nice to have a nice little small box game that plays up to 6. And then of course the rule book. So that is that. And then I also ordered 2 player mats with it because I figured maybe if I play it as a 2-player game, you know, we can have these pretty cool player mats to use with it. So that arrived. And then I was in my game store and I had some store credit. So I purchased a game which I feel like I had heard a little bit about. And that is Fairy Ring. So Fairy Ring, the box is pretty cool. It's got good reviews. And so I bought this at game night the other night with my store credits. So there are some player aids. There are a bunch of different cards. I'll just show you some of them. So this game also has mushrooms in it. Mushrooms and fairies. So I'll just show you the insert so you can just see what everything looks like inside before I open everything else up. So this is what it looks like inside. So there's this thing, I don't know what this is used for, but each player is going to have a dial to keep track of something, obviously. These player pieces are really cool. So these are acrylic player pieces. Really nice. And they've got like the printing on both sides. So these are like the fairies. Really, really like those. And then there are some like wooden pieces. I think you're going to be storing your cards or something underneath. There's like these wooden point tokens or something like that. And then there are some smaller acrylic or wooden player pieces. I can't remember if they're acrylic or wooden. Let me see. Oh yeah, acrylic. So there are like some acrylic player tokens here as well. So I bought this recently just because I had store credit to use and I had heard something like, I think I'd mentioned this, I heard this game mentioned somewhere. So I was like, oh, I'll check it out. It looks cool. So yeah, so I purchased that with my store credit. And then there is another game I could show you, but I'm like running out of steam here and I still have a lot of stuff to go through still. So we will end this section here. In terms of games that I'm culling, I don't have a giveaway to do this week. I'll resume giveaways again after Spiel Essen, but I did end up selling my game of Brass Birmingham. So if you remember many videos ago, I had asked whether or not I should sell Brass Birmingham and I decided I would. So I sold it and I recouped all of the money I spent on it, including for all of the upgrades, and it's a signed deluxe numbered edition. So yeah, so I managed to get my money back for that, which is really great because it's not a game I can foresee myself ever playing again. And I managed to meet Martin Wallace one day and get it signed. So yeah, so you know, it's going to be on going to a new home, hopefully a loving home. So yeah, so I'm happy that I was able to sell that and it felt really good selling it. So I'm like, oh, this feels good. Like removing one game from my collection, one down, many, many to go. So yeah, so you know, keep your eyes peeled for when I come back from Essen and hopefully I'll have time and really start getting rid of more games and doing more giveaways. So yeah, so let's move on. Okay, so let's talk about updates. I feel like this video is going to be super duper long. So FlagCon planning is underway. We are meeting weekly now to get planning done. So yeah, it's going to be so amazing. I know I'm just talking about it every week, but like, yeah, if you haven't bought tickets yet for FlagCon, definitely consider it. Yeah, so I'll leave a link below for FlagCon, which is going to happen in Ithaca the second weekend of November, I believe. Yeah, so Spiel Essen, so I'm going to be on my way to Spiel Essen next weekend, which is crazy. So I'm leaving for Copenhagen on September 28th. And then of course I'll be in Spiel the weekend of October 5th. And then I'm returning on the 8th. So the next time you guys will get a video from me will be Monday, October 14th. So you won't see another weekly playback video until then. I'm hoping to find time to shoot like a list video of the games I'm most looking forward to seeing at Essen. So I'm hoping to shoot that in time to and just have it for a future release date for when Essen is about to happen. So yeah, so I'm hoping to shoot that before I leave, but I honestly don't know if I'll have time, which, you know, hopefully I'll find time somewhere in the week to do that. So yeah, so that's just a quick update on videos and stuff. So let's just go into the book club now. So let's do the fiction book club. So Never Whistle at Night. So we were supposed to read the next 3 stories. Honestly, it's been a little bit of time since I read them, so I hope I can remember all of them. So I think, what were we supposed to read? Oh yeah, so we were supposed to read Wingless, Quantum, and Hunger. So again, some of them were just like more modern stories. Wingless was just, I don't even know like what to make out of it. Like, you know, it's about these indigenous kids who were foster kids, and then something happens in the end, like just yet another modern story, but maybe with a little bit of indigenous like magic in it with the voodoo dolls and stuff like that. But again, you know, not like really what I was expecting. But yeah, just you know, it's unfortunate what these kids had to deal with. So I like how they give you a little bit of a mini biography of the author at the end of each story, by the way. So anyway, but yeah, you know, I think a lot of these stories are just meant to show you what Indigenous people today, like what are some of the issues that they're dealing with today. So of course, you know, I guess, I mean, I'm not an expert, so I honestly don't know, but maybe a number of Indigenous kids have foster families. So maybe this is just to show like how they're treated in foster homes. I don't know. But yeah, so that was of course a disturbing story as well. Quantum. So this is one that I thought was interesting about this was the one about the mother who has 2 kids, and one will be on the payroll for getting money from the casino that this tribe owns, whereas one kid will not, because one kid didn't meet the blood requirement to be on the payroll and get money. So in the beginning of the chapter, you hear her them talking about like how one kid is going to have money for college, one kid is going to have money for this, while the other kid is not. And I really did not like the way how she basically ignored the kid who was not going to get any money. Like, it's like throughout the whole story, she's just treating one kid, the kid who's going to be on the payroll, much better than the kid who isn't. And that just really upset me. It's like, okay, the kid's not going to be on the payroll, but he's still your kid and you should still love him and not ignore him. Whereas I felt like he was ignored multiple times throughout the story. Like, you know, whether it's at the park or whatever, like she just ignored him, whether it's buying him nice shoes, like just really infuriating. Like that really upset me. And then the end of the story, I'm not really sure I understood it, to be honest. Like, yeah, the end of the story, I don't think I really fully understood. Yeah, let me see what it said. Yeah, something about, I think the kid, like, what did he do? I can't remember, but I remember like Googling and trying to find out exactly what happened. Like, did he like eat someone, or I don't even know. Yeah, so oh, no. Like the kid turned into some kind of a creature or something, right? So it says, clawed finger and toes, carrying its long and withered body, covered with a combination of bleeding bald spots and hair tangled with clods of dirt and worse, blah, blah, blah. I can't remember. I didn't really fully understand what happened at the end, but it just turns out that the kid who did not have all of that indigenous blood, like, turned into this thing or something. I don't know. I don't even know if I really understood it. All I know is that I was upset about how she was treating her kids differently. And then Hunger was an interesting story, I guess. So about this one, I feel like related more to what I thought the book would be again. Like, you know, you have like this ancient spirit that has like taken over someone's body, and it's like, you know, trying to feed on people and stuff, and it just keeps on saying how hungry it is. So I feel like that related a bit more to what I thought that this book was going to be. But overall, pretty much the same, like just disturbing stories with not as many indigenous monsters as I thought. I don't know what to make of this book anymore. So let me know, Sandra, if you want to read the next 3 stories, since they are pretty quick. I would love to know your thoughts on these stories. Yeah, I don't know. But if we do read the next 3 stories, that would be, let's see. That would be, let me find it. So if we read the next 3 stories, it would be TikTok, The Ones Who Killed Us, and Snakes Are Born in the Dark. So let me know in the comments below if you want to continue with this, or if you would like to try the other book that I mentioned last week. Either way, it's fine with me. So, they're interesting stories. They're quick reads. I'm always like, find something to comment on, I guess, because like there's always something to get angry about or be horrified by, I guess. So I guess that goes along with the theme of dark stories that it said it was going to be. So those are my thoughts on the stories that we read for this week. So let me know what you thought and whether you want to read the next 3 stories for next time, or whether we want to do the other book that I had mentioned before. Okay, so let me know in the comments below, and let's move on. Okay, so now it is time for our nonfiction book club, and we were supposed to read chapter 5 in its entirety, which is the 5th Declaration of War, 1987 to 1995. I feel like I have a lot to say. Let's see if I can remember it. So this was about the Intifada, the first Intifada, which broke out in December 1987. As we kind of discussed before, there was a paradoxical effect, which was that the Palestinian national movement in Palestine was strengthened, right, from what had happened before, and so on. So the focus of action shifted from being outside to inside the country. So it says the first Intifada ignited when an Israeli army vehicle struck a truck in the Jabalia refugee camp in the Gaza Strip, killing 4 Palestinians. And then the uprising spread quickly throughout the rest of Gaza. And then it talks, it goes into how they tried to crack down on the Intifada and demonstrators and so on. So it says that the defense minister, Yitzhak Rabin, he had a policy of an iron fist policy. So he would break the demonstrators' arms and legs and crack their skulls, as well as beat others who aroused the soldiers' ire. So this is exactly what we see today. There's actually a name for it. So if you look at Palestine, they have this, I believe it's called kneecapping. So they have this policy of kneecapping where they try to maim, paralyze, and maim any young men and even women. So they will shoot people at the kneecaps and destroy their legs. And they do this all the time in order to basically make these people cripples, turn them into cripples so that they will not be able to protest or resist and things like that. So kneecapping, I believe, is what I've heard it be called, is a thing that the Israeli occupation forces actually do. So this has been their policy for a very, very long time, to break people's legs and make their legs basically inoperable or cause their legs to be amputated. So that's something that has been very commonplace for a long time now. Let's see what else. So it says an iconic image from this time period was of a small Palestinian boy hurling a stone at a huge Israeli tank. This chapter talked a little bit about how the imagery coming out of Palestine gained the Palestinian sympathies. A lot of things you'll hear the Zionists say, and those who support the terrorism that Israel engages in, is that, look at these people, they're attacking soldiers with stones. We are literally talking about stones being thrown at tanks. Like, what damage are your soldiers going to, what injuries are your soldiers going to get when a stone is thrown at their freaking tank? You cannot compare stones to bombs and guns. It's ridiculous. These people are resisting the weapons that the Israelis have. So it's the Palestinians who are the resisting party, whereas the Israelis are the aggressors. Yet the media always tries to spin it as the Palestinians being the aggressors with the stones. No, the stones were their way of resisting because they don't have weapons. They don't have any weapons to use. Like these regular Palestinian civilians do not have weapons. And then when you do see later on in the future, and even during this time when they engage in peaceful protest, they're still met with bullets. They're still met with beatings. They're still met with all of the violence that the Israeli occupation forces like to engage in. So it says, at the time the first Intifada broke out, the occupation of the West Bank and Gaza Strip had been in place for 2 decades. So it says, Israel began the colonization of the occupied territories immediately after the 1967 war, eventually creating over 200 settlements from cities of 50,000 residents to flimsy prefabricated clusters housing a few dozen settlers. So yeah, so you can see what they are resisting. This is what the Palestinians are resisting. They are trying to resist colonization, occupation. And this chapter goes a lot into how their rights and liberties were like really limited, and how their access to water and electricity and all of that had, you know, been limited by Israel. Let's see. Oh yeah, then it talks about collective punishment, which we've seen all along. You know, more active resistance, especially that involving violence, invited collective punishment, house demolition, imprisonment without trial under the rubric of administrative detention that could last for years, and even extrajudicial murder. So we've seen this all along. This is something that Israel has been doing for many, 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 many years. So, you know, when we talk about October 7th and why October 7th happened, I feel like a lot of people are forgetting to focus on the fact why it happened. They're focusing on what happened, but not why it happened. You know, in their view, that's resistance. In their view, that was resisting the occupation, the ongoing occupation, and the brutalization that they've been dealing with for over 75 years. Like, the intent of October 7th was to have many of their prisoners, their hostages, returned from Israeli prisons, where people are raped and are killed and are, you know, tortured in these Israeli prisons, as we've seen reported even in the CNN and New York Times. So we do know that that's what happens in Israeli prisons, that people are raped in the most horrific, brutal ways, with like burning iron rods, which we've heard about, and all kinds of other horrific torture that they endure in these Israeli prisons. And often they're imprisoned for like nothing, for no reason. And this is what Israel does. This is what Israel does and has been doing for many, many years. So yeah, it says, you know, a new generation of Palestinians had come of age, having known nothing but military occupation, and they were anything but acquiescent. So this is what we're talking about time and time again. If you really wanted to eliminate Hamas, the way to do it is not by continuing with a military occupation. The way to eliminate Hamas is not by continuing to imprison Palestinians for no good reason, to torture them, to kill them, to steal their homes, to cut off their electricity, to cut off their water. If you really, really, really wanted to end violence from Hamas, you would stop engaging in violence yourself. But they're never going to do that. They're never going to stop. And so, you know, resistance movements are always going to continue to exist. And Hamas is seen as a terrorist organization by the West, but by the world that has been colonized, the rest of the world who has dealt with colonization, they view it as a resistance movement, because that's what it is to the Palestinians. It's a resistance movement. They're trying to resist occupation by fighting back, by trying to get their own prisoners released. And that was the purpose of Hamas taking hostages, so that they could engage in these exchanges for prisoners. But yeah. And, you know, I'm not going to go into details again, but we saw what happened right after October 7th. We're coming up on the 1-year anniversary, but right after it, there were all these false reports of women having been raped, of babies having been beheaded, of babies having been put in ovens, and so on. And all of that was proven to be false. All of those stories were proven to be false. There was no evidence of rape. There was no evidence of babies having been beheaded or having been put in ovens. Yet what we do see on the other side is Palestinian women having been raped and continuing to be raped. We've seen countless babies beheaded by Israel. So yeah, so, you know, as we say, every accusation is a confession. Like everything the Israelis, the Zionists accuse Palestinians of is basically a confession. Like we always see this time and time again. So yeah, it says from the beginning of the First Intifada to the end of 1996, Israeli troops, so that's 9 years, it says Israeli troops and armed settlers killed 1,422 Palestinians, almost one every other day. Of them, 294, or over 20%, were minors 16 and under. Now, why do they focus on killing children even today? They focus on killing children, and they do this, you know, by attacking schools, which they've done. They've bombed schools. They're always targeting children, specifically children, so that they can eliminate the future generations of Palestinians. Like they are very intentionally killing children. And pregnant women. Like pregnant women have been really suffering during this genocide as well. And I've seen some really horrific footage of what's happened to pregnant women. It's just really, really terrible. Yeah, so then it talks about who some of the activists were and stuff like that, what some of their tactics were, like strikes, boycotts, withholding taxes, and civil disobedience and protests and so on. So that's what the Intifada is. So Intifada means resistance. In the West, it's come to be known as a terrorist movement. It's not a terrorist movement. It's literally civilians who are rising up in resistance against their occupying forces. That is what the Intifada is. Intifada literally means resistance. So it says, so it says, its unifying effect and largely successful avoidance of firearms and explosives, in contrast to the Palestinian resistance movement of the 1960s and 70s, helped to make its appeal widely heard internationally. So yeah. You know, again, I don't know how much of that is true, because in the West, Palestinians were really vilified, and the Intifada came to be known as a terrorist movement, which it wasn't. You know, this chapter talked a lot about the short-sightedness of the PLO leaders in Tunis, and a lot of that was just really, really infuriating. Like, I just, again, was like, why, you know, why does this keep on happening, where the Palestinians, these like leaders, these PLO leaders, just really kind of screw themselves over time and time again. Yeah. So that was just, you know, disappointing to read again as well. And it just talks about their failures in various meetings that happened, you know, and their failures, like it says, the failure to take advantage of the Palestinian presence at the UN amounted to willfully ignoring the people, the elites, and the media of the greatest power on earth and the mainstay of Israel, an approach that dated back to 1948 and before. So, you know, and it talked a lot about how these Palestinians would try to engage in these talks and these meetings that would take place, but they would really have no presence. So yeah, there was a Palestinian Declaration of Independence, and it says, the document formally abandoned the PLO's claim to the entirety of Palestine, accepting the principles of partition, a two-state solution, and a peaceful resolution to the conflict. So then it talks about resolutions 242 and 338, but then it talks about, you know, how, their inability to understand how intimately the policies of the United States and Israel were linked. And it talks a lot about the failures of the Palestinians to realize this, which is really unfortunate. You know, I don't know how different things could have been if they had realized how intimately the United States and Israel policy were tied. Let's see what else. I've highlighted a lot, but I don't want to read all of it. Oh yeah, and I think we talked about this before, but Security Council Resolution 242, it said that it included no mention of the Palestine question, and it says it effectively gave Israel a chance to expand its pre-1967 borders further. And it says, by accepting Resolution 242 as the basis for any negotiations, Arafat and his colleagues had set themselves an impossible task, which is true. Yeah. Yeah, it talks about some assassinations that happened and stuff like that. It talks about the Gulf states and Iraq and what role Arafat played in all of that, and, you know, his just misguided ideas about what that would mean for Palestine. Like, again, just upsetting to read all of this. Like, just not the smartest people, I guess, leading the Palestinian liberation movement. Yeah. And of course, it talks a little bit more about, you know, promises again that the United States made, commitments that it again did not fulfill. So it made certain commitments, and then it says the United States never made good on these commitments, failing to prevent an unending series of unilateral Israeli actions, from settlement expansion and the closure of Jerusalem to West Bankers and Gazans, to the erection of a massive new network of walls, security barriers, and checkpoints. So there was an agreement where unilateral action should not be taken. But of course, the United States never holds Israel to anything. We've seen this time and time again. Yeah. Again, we, you know, read a lot about Syria and Lebanon and Jordan and Iraq and blah, blah, blah. Oh yeah. So, you know, whatever the issue at hand, the U.S. representatives considered the Israeli position, as they read it, to be the ceiling of what was feasible or could be discussed. And there was a term used to refer to, so it says American negotiator Aaron David Miller later regretfully used the term Israel's lawyer to describe his stance and that of many of his colleagues. Because basically they are basically defending Israel. Like everything they do, every meeting they have, it's like Israel's interests which are kept in mind, right? And, you know, the Palestinian question, no one ever thinks about that or thinks about the Palestinian question. Oh, there was one figure I remember that came up in this chapter who did seem to understand the Palestinian question and cared about it. But then when the regime, when the presidency in the United States changed, that went away. I think, was that in this chapter or was that the last chapter? I can't remember now. Oh yeah, it was this chapter. So there was this guy named Baker who seemed to be more understanding of things, and it seemed like he would have been a good person to have continue dealing with the Palestine and Israel issue. But when the new administration came in, when Clinton came in, it says no one at the top of the new administration had the same view of the process of Israel or of the Palestine issue as both Bush and Baker. Yeah, so that was really unfortunate. Like reading about Baker, like I didn't really know much about him before, but I was like, oh, like if he had been able to stay in that position, it would have been really good, I think. It would have been good for the Palestinians, or not as bad as it came to be. And then, you know, what happened during the Clinton administration, like, yeah, did not see much progress, really. Yeah, it just keeps on talking more about how the U.S. just is basically Israel's puppet. Oh yeah, and then it talked about this one delegation that happened in 1992, and then it put forward a proposal for the Palestinian Interim Self-Governing Authority, or PISCA. PISCA? I don't know how you would pronounce that. So the core idea was the creation of a Palestinian governmental entity whose authority was to be derived from its election by the people, including Palestinian residents of the West Bank, Jerusalem, the Gaza Strip, those displaced from these areas in 1967, as well as those deported since then by Israel. And it goes on to more of what this would mean, but it says they failed to promote it internationally in the Arab world or in Israel, and even though such promotion might have provided it with some momentum. So, you know, this whole idea that they had, this delegation, this proposal that they put forward really went nowhere, unfortunately. Yeah. And then, you know, it just talks about what Rabin's goals were and how he just basically wanted to create division within the Palestinians, which I feel like that they were successful in doing, right? And then it talks about a confidential agreement that had been reached between PLO and Israel. And it says that they reached a confidential agreement, understanding, whereby PLO cadres and forces, possibly including officers of the Palestine Liberation Army, were to be allowed to enter the occupied territories and take up duties there as security forces. But then you learn that, you know, this wasn't really necessarily good for the people of Palestine. Like, these people in the PLO had special passes which would allow them to get into Jerusalem and stuff like that. But elsewhere, for the Palestinians, you started seeing checkpoints and all of these things which made it life very, very difficult for the Palestinian people. So you see a lot of that in this chapter. yeah, you know, read about how Israel is not recognizing a Palestinian state or even a commitment to allow the creation of one. So yeah, so it says, you know, this was a resounding historic mistake, one with grave consequences for the Palestinian people. Oh, and then you go into the declarations of principle of Oslo 1 and Oslo 2. Again, just more mistakes that that Arafat and the Palestinians were making, I feel like. Oh yeah, so here we see on page 202, there were many worrying signs that things were getting worse for the Palestinian population of Jerusalem, with the draconian restrictions on the entry of West Bankers and Gazans starving the economy of the Arab part of the city, and an acceleration of land seizure, home demolitions, and exile of Jerusalemites whom Israel arbitrarily deemed had lost their residency. Yeah. So, like I mentioned, things were getting really bad for the Palestinians, and it made life very difficult. Like, you know, you can't really live when you have these checkpoints, when you cannot work, and just all these horrible things. And then it talked about the interim agreement on the West Bank and the Gaza Strip, or Oslo 2, which was agreed upon in 1995. So it carved both regions into an infamous patchwork of areas, A, B, and C, with over 60% of the territory, Area C, under complete, direct, and unfettered Israeli control. Yeah, so, and then you see, you know, learn more about what this means and how settlements were expanding. Settlement construction was able to continue apace. Jerusalem was further severed from the West Bank, and Palestinians from the occupied territories were increasingly barred from entering Israel. And scores of military checkpoints and hundreds of miles of walls were electrified fences carved the West Bank into a series of isolated islands and scarred the landscape. And why is this being done? So that Palestinians cannot, like, you know, rise up as one unit to resist the occupation. Yeah, just really, really infuriating. It talks about how in the quarter century since the Oslo agreements, the situation in Palestine and Israel has often been falsely described as a clash between two near equals, between the state of Israel and the quasi-state of the Palestinian Authority. But we know that this is not true. One state has an army, a military, whereas one state does not. Like, and it says it is mandated by it's security. So yeah, it is mandated by U.S. and Israeli dictates to provide security for Israeli settlers and occupation forces against the resistance, violent and otherwise, of the Palestinians. Like, it just, like, there's no security for the Palestinians. It's all about Israel. Like, Israel is always the focus of any negotiations or agreements that happen. Yeah, so it says, the Oslo Framework, the result of that realization, the Oslo Framework was designed to preserve those parts of the occupation that were advantageous to Israel, the privileges and prerogatives enjoyed by the state and the settlers, while offloading onerous responsibilities and simultaneously preventing genuine Palestinian self-determination, statehood, and sovereignty. Blah, blah, blah. So yeah, just really disappointing. Yes. So in the last paragraph, it just talks about Israel's partnership with the United States. And it says it has relied on American support on the political, diplomatic, military, and legal levels. The bountiful sums of money and aid, loans, and tax-free charitable donations given to support the settlements and the creeping absorption of Arab neighborhoods in Jerusalem, and the copious flow of the world's most advanced arms to advance Israel's colonization of the entirety of Palestine. So it says the Oslo Accords in effect constituted another internationally sanctioned American-Israeli declaration of war on the Palestinians in furtherance of the Zionist movement's century-old project. And we're still seeing that today. Like, it's just so disappointing. Like, everything we read in this book, we're just seeing today. What are we seeing right now? We're seeing Israel bombing the shit out of southern Lebanon, where like Europeans have even warned their citizens to get out of Lebanon. Like, Israel's goal has been to turn this into a regional war since the beginning. And what you'll see on the media is Israel claiming it's the victim, that Hezbollah fires rockets into Israel. If you just like look at the footage of where Hezbollah fires these rockets in and how like no one is killed from these rockets, whereas the bombings that Israel has been conducting in Lebanon since the beginning has killed numerous people, and the attack, the cyber attack that they conducted recently, in which they intercepted a bunch of pagers and caused the pagers to explode, killing civilians, and people are celebrating this terrorist attack. It is a terrorist attack. If Arabs had intercepted pagers and blew those up and it resulted in killing civilians, everyone would be calling it a terrorist attack. But no one's calling it a terrorist attack because it's Israel that did it. It just gets worse and worse every day. Like every day, if you think, oh, it can't get worse than this, like I've seen the most horrific images I can possibly see. Every day I manage to see images which are worse than before. I hear of news that is worse than before. It literally just gets worse day by day. This war is expanding. It's not a war, I would say this genocide is expanding. And why is it expanding? Because of the Greater Israel Project. This has been something in the works that, for a very long time. This has been in the works for a very long time, where Israel wanted to take over parts of Syria, parts of Lebanon, the West Bank, and so on, and turn Israel into a greater Israel. You see so many people being imprisoned and killed in the West Bank, where there is no Hamas, and there is no reason for the Israel military to be in there killing people. And settlements are increasing in the West Bank. There's illegal settlements that, are being created every single day in the West Bank and other parts of Palestine that are 100% illegal. And the UN and the ICC have said that they're illegal and that Palestinians have a right to resist them. There's always these, I guess you can call them mandates or orders being issued by the International Court, which are just being completely ignored. Every single day this is happening. So I don't even know what to say anymore. I'm just really, really tired. And if we're tired of talking about this, you can only imagine how the people who are living through it feel. It's just really, really horrible and horrifying. So anyway, for next time, just read chapter 6, and then after that we'll just have the conclusion left, which is also, I would say we should do both, but then that would be a lot of reading. So let's just do chapter 6 for next time, and then we'll do the conclusion. But this is going to take us to the 1-year anniversary of when this genocide began, and it's just really disappointing. But let me know your thoughts below. Let me know what you're making of all of this and what you're learning, if you've learned anything new, or if this is all just stuff that you already knew. I feel like one of the things that is unfortunate is that the people who are more inclined to read a book like this are the ones who are already understanding of what evil Zionism is and what evil Israel is and what is happening. The people who are inclined to read a book like this already know all of this. The people who should be reading books like this are Quackalope, or the owners of Burnt Island Games and Kids Table Board Gaming, or even Alex from Board Game Co. These are the people who should be reading this. And why do I mention Alex's name? Because shortly after the genocide began, he reached out to me in private messenger, and he was like, oh, I hope that things, I hope that we can still be, friendly towards each other. And I said, yeah, because I like you. I would like to remain friendly with you. And then I told him that his video that he had released right after October 7th happened had some misinformation in it. He was relying on the old Hamas charter and not the new one. And he was basically propagating the lies that Zionists tell, that the intent of Hamas is to eliminate all Jews, which it is not. And so I told him that, and he said he would issue a correction, and he never did. And what happened after our conversation was he actually ended up unfollowing me on Instagram after telling me that he wanted to be friendly with me. So he, I guess maybe he saw some of my Instagram stories, because all I have been doing since October is sharing stories, trying to educate people about what is happening in Palestine and about this genocide. And maybe he saw some stories and that's why he unfollowed me on Instagram. I don't know. But I feel like it's people like Quackalope who are hardcore Zionist who need to be reading books like this. I mean, Quackalope just had a baby recently. And what are we seeing in Palestine? We're seeing countless images of babies being beheaded with their insides spilling out, babies who've lost their limbs, babies who are just burned from the chemical weapons, like the most horrific images coming out of Palestine, of Palestinian babies. And here is a person, a hardcore Zionist who just had a baby, and do you think that they care about Palestinian babies? No. Do you think that they're like thinking about the Palestinian babies who are having their heads blown off and their limbs blown off and their insides spilling out of them? No. They don't care about them, just like Helena Kappel didn't care about Palestinian babies back in 2021, which caused that whole thing in this industry with people deciding to blacklist me again because of me calling out Helena Kappel for being a Zionist. Like, I literally said to her, like, what is the difference between Black Lives Matter and Palestinian Lives Matter? Like, tell me what the difference is. And she couldn't say what the difference is. Yet she was like turning, like she was showing that she cares about the Indigenous children of Canada and what happened to them. Because, you know, it had turned out that a lot of Indigenous children in Canada had been murdered. And so she was trying to raise awareness about that at that time. And I'm like, okay, so you care about one Indigenous population, but not another Indigenous population. Like, the hypocrisy of these people, it's like so ridiculous. Like these people have such cognitive dissonance. Like, I just don't even know what to say to people like this, like who can support such policies which are just so disgusting, resulting in a genocide. That's what Zionism is. It's resulting in the genocide of the Palestinians. And they're silent. Like, one thing that's really interesting, I think you'll see, is that these people who, you know, made these videos on or after October 7th, explaining how sad they are and how they hope that the world will stand by Israel. So like Quackalope and Alex from Board Game Co., like these people made videos following October 7th. Have they made a video since then? Have they made a video since then when more and more of the truth is coming out, when more and more of the world can see what Israel is? Have they made a video since then? No, they don't need to make a video because they're not the victims. They are not the victims. It's the Palestinians, the Arabs, and the Muslims who are the victims. But who is speaking up for them? Do you think they have no reason to make a video because they know that the majority of the world is on their side? All they need to do is cry anti-Semitism, and it's like, oh yeah, we totally, like, you know, we'll stand up for you. We'll stand up for Israel because anti-Semitism. This is not about anti-Semitism. This is about human rights. It's about a genocide. It's not about being anti-Jewish. No one, like, we are not trying to eliminate Jews from Israel. We are trying to get a brutal occupation to end. We are now trying to get a genocide of the Palestinians to end. Anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. All you need to do is to look at the hundreds of thousands of anti-Zionist Jews in this world to know that anti-Zionism is not anti-Semitism. And Zionists are the Nazis of today. So it's really unfortunate that the same people who are using the Holocaust, weaponizing what happened during the Holocaust to, you know, they're weaponizing the Holocaust to perpetuate a genocide right now, to continue with this genocide. They're using a genocide which happened in history to justify a current genocide. Like, that is just so fucking sick and messed up. And if people cannot see that, like, there's no helping you then. If you cannot see how sick and messed up that is, then there is really no helping you. Like, there's no convincing people who cannot see that of having humanity. Like, these people lack humanity. There is no humanity. There is no empathy. Like, these people can, like, literally sit at home, not have issued any corrections for their videos that they made in October of last year, and they're perfectly fine with it. They can sit at home with a guilt-free conscience, apparently, because they think that they're the victims. Like, it's just disgusting. I'm sorry, but it's disgusting. And if they cared about the truth, they would have issued corrections and would have talked about what they got wrong in their videos, but they haven't. And they don't feel a need to because they're on the side that, the vast majority of the world, unfortunately, still seems to support. Like, unfortunately, it's people are on the wrong side here. People are still on the wrong side of history here. And so that's just unfortunate. And so the vast majority of the board game industry is silent. So that's just the way it is. One thing I will say is I noticed that, like, the people who get invited to these, like, really cool looking fun events, like these special publisher events and stuff like that, it's the people who, like Alex, because Alex tries to, talk with everyone and be friends with everyone, but it's the other content creators who get invited to these kinds of events are the people who don't say anything about anything. Like the content creators who get invited to these fun events, these publisher events, and get flown over, get flown to places across the country are the people who stay silent about every issue. And they only speak up when, the one crowd on Twitter like makes a big, fuss about something, and then they know, okay, it's safe to speak up about this issue, so we'll say something then. It's not people like me who are ever going to be invited to events like that, because like I'm going against the status quo in this industry. I'm speaking up about a genocide and trying to inform the world, this board gaming world, that, there are people in this industry who are Zionists. There are people in this industry who are in support of a genocide of people. And do you think people want me to come to their events? Do you think that, they want someone who is, this political? Like, no, like they don't want that. They want people who are just going to be all fun and games. But I am all fun and games when I play games, actually. So, if I did get invited to an event, it's not like I would make it a political issue, but whatever. But the point is, like, it's the people who just stay silent about everything who are the safe ones in this industry. And people like me who were wrongly labeled as dangerous in 2021 have unfortunately not been able to get away from that label. So, and, the people who labeled me as dangerous are on the wrong side of history. Like, they've stayed silent about this genocide. Like, Suzanne can put anti-genocide in her Twitter profile, but it doesn't mean shit because she has not said a word about it. She's not said one word about the genocide. People like Rodney Smith have not said a word. Like people like, all these people in 2021 who labeled me as dangerous for calling Helena Kappel the Zionist that she is and speaking against the violence against the Palestinians back then. All these people who labeled me dangerous are still silent. And it's just, this industry is just such a shit show. Like, the politics in this industry and how people in this industry operate, it's just really disappointing. Like, you really see everyone's true faces. You really see who people really are in this industry and what they stand for. And it's profits. It's, it's money. It's that's what it is. People don't want to lose their money. They don't want to lose their business deals. They don't want to, like Rodney Smith, so he won't ever say anything because he doesn't want to lose business from the Zionist publishers. And people like Eric Lang, who supposedly cares so much about human rights, haven't, he doesn't say anything because he works with Zionists and he doesn't want to upset his Zionist friends. They're all just fucking shills. They're all just Zionist shills. And Zionist shills will get invited to events, and people who are dead silent will get invited to events, but people who are speaking up against the genocide won't ever get invited to events. Like, that's a guarantee. And so, people will stay silent because they want to fit into this community. And unfortunately, standing up for brown lives just does not matter. Standing up for Arab lives just does not matter in this industry. And we've seen the rise in Islamophobia. We've seen the rise in racism and bigotry against Arabs and people who are Muslim from other parts of the world who are not Arabs. Like, we've seen the rise in Islamophobia happening again, just like it did after 9/11. Like, after, it was even like 9 years after 9/11, I was sitting in a law school class and I had classmates raise their hand when the constitutional law professor asked them if, raise your hands if you're in support of putting all Muslims into camps, like detention camps, like whatever they were called. And a number of my classmates raised their hands, and I'm just like looking at them like, great, like they want me and my family to go to a camp because we're Muslim. Like, we're seeing a rise in Islamophobia today, and people in this industry are just silent, like, because they don't care. They just don't care. Like, they're showing you who they are. And as these people love to say, whenever someone shows you who they are, believe them. So, these are the people, if you're supporting these content creators who are just content to stay silent and content to get all the review copies, get all the business, and have no integrity, like, these people are showing you who they are. So believe them when they show you who they are. I guess I'll stop my rambling. So let's move on. So since Essen is around the corner, I guess my question of the week is, which Essen release would you most want to play or purchase if you were going to Essen? I guess I'm kind of asking that for selfish reasons because, going to Essen, so I would like to know what people are interested in. And, you know, if someone is interested in a certain game and I'm interested in it too, then great, then I'll hopefully be able to talk about it on this channel if I get that game. So yeah, so let me know in the comments below which game that's being released at Essen are you most interested in. And I guess I won't see you for a couple of weeks, so until then, bye!